Pessoal, boa tarde. Hoje eu estou aqui com o músico Kjell Braaten, que é um grande músico nessa área, inclusive da questão dos sons baseados em músicas nórdicas antigas. Ele faz composições, né, baseadas nessas temáticas. Ele já participou, inclusive, de filmes e séries das trilhas sonoras. Ele tem um histórico muito grande como músico, projetos incríveis, inclusive, não só de carreira solo, mas com parcerias também com outros músicos. E hoje aqui a gente vai iniciar essa entrevista, que vai ser muito bacana. Ele não é o primeiro músico que eu recebo, né, que também fez parte da trilha sonora. A gente teve também outros músicos que vieram, que fizeram parte também da trilha sonora do filme do Homem do Norte. Então, para mim é uma honra também recebê-lo aqui no canal. Kjell, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. It's a big honor receiving you here in the channel. It's a big pleasure receiving you because you're doing a lot of works that some people are being interesting to know much more. And I think people know some medias that you participate with your songs. And just for starting, how did you start your career as a musician, that you chose, oh, I want to be a musician and I want to do a work with Old Norse music. I want to search about the instruments, the music of that past. How do you start this?
It's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. Now, I started out with music when I was a very little child. I had a mom that really backed us up with the music, and I was educated as a conductor already when I was 17 years old. And I was working as a music instructor and a conductor for local school bands and such at a very young age. But then when I was 18, I think, then I got this I had this experience, and I thought, what am I doing with my life? I'm just in the classical music. I'm just replicating music, replicated times and times before me. So I just, within a week, I quit all the orchestras. I quit all my jobs with the classical scene, and I started making just like harsh, crazy noise music. And I tried to break as many musical rules as I possibly could. and through there, I ended up, I broke the music to such extent to I was one of the craziest noise musicians in Norway at the time, back in the 90s, together with a few others. And we broke the music down so much. And what I discovered is that when you distort and break the sounds to a certain extent, all you end up with is just ambient music. And that brought me into more like meditational music and these things. And within that scene, I found the like what we would call ur music, like didgeridoo, throat singing, these things. And I started to work mid-90s. I started to work with more into like indigenous people's music. And back in 1999, Gustav Holberg came to me. He's also known from bands like Folket Bortafor Nordavind, Astralside, Runahild, and such. And he invited me and another friend of us, Maria Frans, into this band called Evas. So we started doing like Viking-related music back in 1999, and we had this band that we did like hundreds of shows for a few years, released a couple of albums, and we came into the Viking scene, and I discovered that there's so much knowledge in the Viking scene about so many things, but nobody knows shit about music. Because, I mean, we were playing didgeridoos and African djembe drums and throat singing, when people accepted that as Viking Age music, which none of it has anything to do with Viking Age music. We had no idea what we were doing. So I figured that, maybe someone's got to do something about this. Maybe we're going to stop this idea about Viking music being whatever weird, crazy thing that many people think. Because, I mean, throat singing and these things has nothing to do with Viking Age music. So I guess that around like 2003 or something, I started to go into the studies and really study about what kind of instruments did they have, what do we know about how the music may have sounded like, and so on. And I started to travel around at museums and Viking markets and such, and teach about these things. So it's been quite a long journey, but I'm very happy that I found this little niche that I've been working with now for about 25 years. So, if that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting journey to start this. And for you, it's I think it's a little complicated to question this, but how we can define the Viking Age music, and how is the process to create a Viking Age song for how can I say, for start an album or media, how this we can define. We have some instruments that are found by archaeologists that prove, oh, Viking Age you use this, or we have some how can I say, some relates like even if I don't that talk about the song that he listened in when he was traveled to the Volga River,
Yeah.
and how we can define this type of song, or this type of music.
The very easy and very quick and easy and only correct answer to this is we can't. We don't know anything about what music the Vikings had. What we do know is what kind of instruments they had. We have a couple of descriptions, which is very they don't really describe the music at all. There's a couple of, I mean, we had a couple of Arab people who traveled and wrote down things, like Ibn Fadlan, who wrote about this grave ritual in Novgorod, which most probably was a Viking ritual. There was also Altucci, who went to Denmark, who described the music of the Vikings as the worst, noisy crap he ever heard. They sounded like, their singing sounded like worse than mad dogs. And apart from that, there's not really anything that we can go for. The earliest sources of anything that can be traced back to Viking Age maybe are sources who were written down in the 1600s. So about Viking Age music, we don't really know anything. But what we do know for sure is that what many people call Viking music today has nothing to do with what music the Vikings had. There was a lot of singing. There were some prominent people who owned a lyre, and there was probably drums. There are no findings of drums from Viking Age in Scandinavia, but they most certainly had them, and some flutes. But what melodies they did and what arrangement and such, we have no idea.
Yes, that's an interesting thing, because when we have musicians that composing or doing songs about this topic, it's some people think that they do the real Viking Age song of that time, but we know that it's a type of song that we try to doing some things about that time, but not exactly like that time, because we don't have the, how can I say, we don't have some
We don't have the knowledge.
examples or things that we try to replicate the song of that time. It's, I think that's a very difficult, and
Yeah.
now it's impossible because we don't have some things writings, or it's much more oral, the traditions, and
Exactly.
it's more difficult to know how the song in the Viking Age was doing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you are right about that.
Yeah,
And
we can't. We know a bit about how the instruments sounded, how we could use them. We know a little bit about how they used them with singing or speaking, but what kind of melodies and such, we know almost nothing.
Yeah, it's good to know. But for your process of composing your songs and for doing music,
Mhm.
what type of things that you use with the some recursos that you use to um, doing some do you have explorations of the poetqueda, or do you use some types of instruments? How do you consider your process to doing your songs?
For me, it's when I do my songs, like my skaldic songs with the lyres and such, I do sing about old traditions, not necessarily Viking age, but I do sing about traditions. Some of the songs are about modern things too, but I try to keep the tradition of the skaldic tradition as far as we know anything about it, because yeah, the only way to do it today is to create something new that we can make, like what my friend Einar Selvik is also doing when he's doing his skaldic things, which is to try to recreate something that might be close to what was, or at least that reflects something in us that speaks to us in a certain way. Um, and for me, it's not so much about trying to recreate what was, because it's pointless. We can't do that, when we will never be able to do it. So what I normally say is that I create modern music with inspiration from the past, and with sounds from the past, and that's the closest we can get to it, really. So sorry, I'm gonna turn this up. If that makes any sense. For some of it, I mean, when I was working with the band Vadruna, for instance, Einar uses a lot of the old poems and things from the runes and these things in his music. And when I was working with the band Nebala, it's also about ancient poems from the past, and these things, like the concept of the album I created with Jonas, which was even older than Viking Age. We were singing in Proto-Germanic, which is a much older language than Old Norse, to see how far back we could go with this. Um, and that's interesting. For me, it's more about what the music does to us as human beings, which is the interesting part of it. And I'm fortunate to be in a situation where a lot of the people who listen to my music give me a lot of feedback on how the music affects them in a personal level, which as an artist is the best compliments you can get, really. And especially my album Blota has done that to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, it's very very interesting work that you do with the many musicians, because we saw that have a fusion of many sounds, that we saw that all these have a little bit of the Nordic music, and but we saw that inspirations in many other things, that we saw that things that you say are actual things that are doing in nowadays, not only in the Viking Age, and that's a very very interesting project for
Yeah.
that's working with these musicians.
Mm.
And you recently told me that you have a work with children's to showing the some traditions of the Sami people.
Yeah.
Can you talk much more about this
Of
project?
course, of
I
course. That's
think it
that that's
was
what I'm
very
doing
interesting when
at the
you
moment.
told me.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm on tour with Vaimugela, which is Sami, and it means the language of the heart in Sami language. And we have this really nice project in Norway. It's called, it would be translating to something like the cultural rucksack, or backpack. And it's actually the authorities who has this project, where they hire artists to travel at schools and educate people through art. And it could be performance art, it could be people having courses with painting, there could be another group who's touring this area now who has juggling courses with the kids. And we have this performance, me and Nina and Marit, which teach them about the Sami culture, which it starts off with Marit, who talks about her life as a Sami when she grew up with Sami as her mother language, and how she found her drum, and how she learned to do the yoik singing when she got her first kid and such. And then it changes over to Nina, who is a storyteller, and she tells the story about, which is an ancient Sami story about the daughter of the sun, who taught the people to yoik their reindeers. And she made it into this beautiful love story between a human person and this daughter of the sun. And I'm there painting all the pictures, making the sound of the mountains and the sound of the monsters coming and these things. It's absolutely lovely, and I think it's important to do these things because, like myself, when I was a kid, I'm a dyslexic. I struggle with learning from reading books. I can read a book out loud for people, and they won't notice that I'm struggling with reading. But I have no idea what I just read when I'm done with it. And for me, I learned through experience, and many of the children in schools are the same. So I think it's really important to do this and bring some knowledge in a different way to these children. In Norwegian schools, most of them are really good at trying to find new ways of working with teaching children, not this old school like you're gonna listen to me, but they're trying to integrate the children more and more into the research and inspire them to research themselves more than just lecturing them, which is good. And I think taking part of this kind of projects is important. And I'm very happy that I'm lucky to be able to take part of this project.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful project. When you told me in the mail, I saw, oh my God, that's very interesting. If it's possible, I would like so much to participate because it's very amazing to saw that. I think the Sami culture was very interesting and need to be more attention for people, because
Absolutely.
sometimes we only have interesting for sometimes we love to know about the Vikings. Oh, it's
Mhm.
a very interesting. Feel we feeling very happy. We know when we love the Vikings, but
Yeah.
sometimes we don't saw that are much more in the Scandinavian, like the Sami. In the Sami
Yeah,
culture,
exactly. And I mean, I can teach about the Vikings, but the Vikings disappeared 1,000 years ago. The Sami are still here. You know, it's like in the Amazon, they're still there. And we still have the Sami people. They're still existing. The Vikings died out 1,000 years ago. So yeah, it's interesting because for me, the Viking, it's a very special thing that happened in Scandinavia back then, which didn't happen anywhere else. And of course, that's my roots, and it created the community I grew up in. But I also, I mean, Norwegians know very little about the Sami culture, and I mean, they know more about Viking culture than Sami culture, and the Sami are still living amongst us. So for me, I feel I really enjoy to teach about Viking Age and these things, but it's kind of more important to teach children about the Sami culture and try to preserve it before it goes out like the Viking society did. And I mean, Norway have been trying very hard for many years to get rid of the Sami people. Not in a while, but the way they treated the Sami people back in the 17 and 1800s and early 1900s was absolutely horrible. So I think it's important to bring this knowledge about the beauty of this culture to the young people today.
Yeah, it's very important. I think the sons have sometimes to, how can I say, problems with the society that don't comprehend the customs, some things. They sometimes they are seen like strangers for other peoples, and that's a really sad situation for the
It is.
community some, because they are not respect in many aspects by the society since in the past and since nowadays we saw this process. But
It
I
is.
think when we have projects like that, we saw that a light in the end of the tunnel for showing the people the beauty of the customs of the Sami.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we have this all over the world. I mean, like in your part of the world, we have the same. You know, we have the indigenous people living around still there. And it's important to bring the knowledge about this, because so many people are looking down at these people because they're different and because they don't understand them. They don't, and a lot of people are scared of things they don't understand. And we need to change this. We really need to change this. It's like I was also working as a musical leader in another Norwegian project called Fargespill, which means a game of colors, which is a project where you take in kids from all sorts of different cultures who comes to the country. And the project is completely for free to be part of. And what we do is that we take all these kids in and we say like, hello, welcome to my culture. What do you have of beautiful things from your culture that you can teach me? And I will teach you some of mine. And my job as the musical leader of the project was or in my department of the project, was to take in all these small pieces of culture from. It could be a children's song, it could be a little game, it could be a melody, an instrument, whatever. And then I would sit down together with these kids. We had in my little group, we had 70 children from more than 40 different cultures. And then we took all these pieces and we put them together up in a kettle and we stirred it around and we created something new with it. So it could be an old traditional Norwegian folk song with a Kurdish rap and a Chinese tonality, or whatever we came up with. And we made this into a big show every year. And for me, this is what gives hope for the future. When we had the celebration of the Norwegian Constitution back in 2014, at the 17th of May, which is the Constitution Day in Norway, we got the Opera House in Oslo. We were at the Opera House in Oslo celebrating the Norwegian Constitution with the whole nationwide Fargespill project with kids from more than 100 different cultures on stage together. This makes hope for the future, because this is the only way to the future, because we live in a world now where the barriers and the borders are less and less there, and we need to. This is how we can make a future together. It's the only way. So yeah, it's we're talking far away from the Viking Age music thing, but
Yeah, it's very, very interesting and very nice to saw that project. And yeah, this is a very interesting thing in your career, that your collaborations with movies and series. And you
Mhm.
work in the Northman and the Vikings Valhalla. How was this experience to work in that series and movies that you participate? How was the process to being part of this? The
Yeah,
Northman was amazing movie,
yeah, it's
and
great. It's really good.
was I think was one of the most beautiful movies of the Viking Age, because
I agree.
Robert Eggers bring us much more closer of the Viking Age that compared to other movies or past movies that we have, and that's a new visual and a new eyes for the Vikings and for the traditions. And how
Yeah.
do you see that you work
Um,
with
I must
that?
admit that my part in the Northman movie was a very, very, very tiny part, though. But Jonas, who I was working with, we were recording the Nembala album at that part. He plays a big part in the movie. He's the one who instructed the throat singing for the rituals. He also created one of the songs. He's actually also acting in the movie, and
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So
interview here. It was very interesting. He
yeah.
was he come the channel and we did the interview. Was very a
Yeah,
big
exactly. Yeah,
experience.
but so then so my part was really just that some of the scenes were re-recorded in my studio. So I didn't do much more than sound engineering for the project really. But because of the pandemics, they couldn't do the recordings because you couldn't travel through countries. So we did some remote recording sessions for the project. So they recorded it in I think London, we were so Jonas were singing in my studio in the Osterøy Island in Norway, and I directly transferred the files. So they recorded it there, and we had some cooperations with the technical parts really. So my part in that movie wasn't really that big, uh, but it was really nice to be part of it, and I do agree. I think it's one of the best Viking team movies out there. It's probably also one of the most authentic ones. In both ways, I do like, and both and ways I wish wasn't true. But yeah, it's one of the better out there. So
That's
mm.
that's very nice. And Vikings Valhalla, how was the experience to being part in
that's
the soundtrack of the
it's
series?
the the American movie music business is very different from the business at home here. There's is very yeah it can't really be compared. The way they work is very different from here. So, but it's a very nice experience, and I'm very happy I did it. I'm very happy that Katiran brought me into the project, and that Trevor Morris wanted me in also. Um, and but it's the way it works. It's like you don't really have much to say with these kind of composers. It's his project. He owns everything, and it's all his. And the way it works is that he sends you a file with an rough idea about the song, and he tells you to like do some epic Viking singing or do some epic Viking tagelharpa, and you don't really know what you're doing because you don't know is what's going on the screen. Should I be sad? Should I be happy? Should I be mad? So it's a bit of a hit and miss thing, but it's very interesting because you really need to focus when you don't know, and you get this thing, and you have to try to figure out yourself, and create something, and you have like 24 hours to make and compose and record and deliver it back. So it's you really need to stay focused, and then I found it really interesting to work that way. It's we would never do that here, but yeah, I learned a lot from it, and I'm very happy I took part. And it's quite cool to hear myself in especially the first season. There's quite a lot of my stuff. Second season there's a little bit. I don't think they used any of my parts in the third seasons. I was only doing recording for the first one, but it's a lot of fun, really.
And how do you consider more difficult it is working for your own albums or doing albums for these movies and series that you participate? How is it's different, or the process of creation is similar? How do you
Yeah, the
consider the
creation
more?
process of working with these kind of projects is very different from working with my own music, because I mean, I don't know. I don't own these processes, or I don't own the music. I don't own I don't have any rights to the music for Vikings Valhalla, for instance. Even not even my own parts. So it's a very different thing, and I don't have any control of what will end up in the script. I have no idea. I just send my parts, and I don't know. I will have to go and listen to the album when it's out to see if it's there or not. So it's very different. And then, like working with for instance, the creation of the Nebala album with Jonas, where he came to me and asked me if I could be his producer, and then we met up for the first time in studio, and we had a couple of days there. And when he came back for the next session, he was more like, "Yeah, no, I think it's better if you just make it a cooperational project." So we created the rest of the album together, and then, being part of the creative process in that way is very nice, and it's. I like to participate with other musicians in this way, because you have to push your own barriers. You have to meet other people's views on things. You have to kind of go out of yourself a little bit to go into, okay, this is the project, this is the concept we're working on, and then you need to stick with that. When I work with my own music, it can change all the time, and I jump back and forth between different ideas and different, albums, and so this kind of processes are very different from project to project. Like, for instance, when with Vadruna, it's like Einar creates all the music, and I'm just playing the parts that I'm supposed to play, yeah, and so these processes are very different, and I think as a musician it's important to do different kind of processes like this, because if you just do the same thing all the time, it will get boring. If you get bored from what you do, you won't be able to create anything soulful. And I see a lot of this in the music business today. There's so many people who creates music, and it's just soulless. It's constructed music. Someone trying to make something because someone else made something they liked, and they try to recreate the same. It won't ever be the same. It's like to keep to the Viking scene. This happens in all genres out there, But why would I bother trying to recreate Vadruna? Because Vadruna is already there, and nobody can make Vadruna better than Einar. So why would I even try to sound like that? Because it's already there. Heilung sounds like Heilung. Nobody will ever sound like Heilung better than Heilung. So why bother? Why don't you just try to create your own thing instead? And if you want to sound like Heilung, why don't you contact them and try to be part of the project? Which you probably won't, but but for me, it's all about exploring. It's about reaching out. It's about stretching myself to new soundscapes, to new projects. Like the album I released this Monday now, which is the Lithuanian project I took part of. Which is in Lithuania, they have a certain kind of folk music singing tradition that was almost lost, because when they were taken into the union, their own culture were forbidden, and it was taken out. And I think the Sutartinus was actually the first singing tradition that ended up on the UNESCO list of cultures you need to preserve for singing projects or singing traditions. And I was contacted by this group from Lithuania, and because of what I do here with teaching kids about ancient music, and because they were trying to reinvent this in the people's soul of today. And they were like, yeah, but can you teach us how we can do this and reach out to the young people? Because the young people are only listening to techno music today, and dance music and pop music. They're not interested in this. And Unfortunately, the project was abrupt because of the pandemics, so we couldn't go on with it, and the foundings disappeared and everything. But we managed to make a small project after the pandemics here in Norway. So they came here and we did some workshops and concerts, and then we gathered in my living room for about 4 hours, and I threw out the microphones I had living laying around in the living room, and we did a recording, which is what's on that album. So sound wise, it might not be the best in the world, but I think it's important to document these things and show it to the world. Yeah, I don't know if I was even close to what you asked me about, but
Oh, it's perfect. You asked very well the question, and you recently worked in the. I think it was a project involving the Voluspa.
yeah,
With I think
with,
he's a researcher, Claire Moore.
yeah, Claire,
That
Claire, yeah,
they,
she's
when I saw that, I think, whoa, that's amazing. She was assuming the presence of the Volva, told in holding the all the things that will happen with him,
yeah,
and for the all the how can I say the history that will be involved to the beginning of the days and the end of the days to
yeah.
the Hingap to Ragnarok. And when I saw the performance, well, that was amazing. How is being this collaborative is begin or working? How it was being
It
part
was
of this?
I was really happy when Claire reached out to me and asked if I would like to take part of her project, and I'm very glad that I had this opportunity. I really loved working with Claire, and at the moment we've been separated for quite a while because I've been busy with my things and she's busy with her things. I would hope we could keep up working together in the future. I really loved working with her. Um, so what she's been studying Voluspo really in depth for years, and for the performance, she rewrote the whole poem into modern language from based on the conclusion from her own research, and I really like the way she interpreted the whole story. It's absolutely beautiful. Or no, it's not. Yeah, it's it's not exactly beautiful. It's quite rough and raw and brutal, but but that's the story. And I also think her way of performing it as the Volva that as the main figure in the poem itself is really good. She does a brilliant job with that, and yeah, I was very happy to be part of it. Yeah, and it's
Yes.
again, it's because with this project, Claire has she has her ID, she has her text, she has her way of performing, and my job with that project was to enhance that. It wasn't to create my own version of the poem. It was to enhance her performance of it and make the sounds to push it forward and make it more. And I really I like working with music for theater and such because yeah, it's so much alive, you know. So yeah, that was quite a lovely journey to do that.
Yeah, it was totally different from the things that I see. I saw a very nice interpretation
Yeah,
from that. I think, if I remember, Professor Terry Gunner liked so much this performance, and
yeah, he did.
he he saw a very compliments to that and say, oh, he think that was a very biggest performance. I remember that I talked to him with that, and he was very surprised by this.
Mm,
I when I was doing work about with him with how can I say? We are trying to do work that I was construct about a hogback relationship with the Thor, and when we talk about that, I was talking with him about this performance, and he say, "Oh, that's a very very interesting performance about this." And when I saw in a in a in the Instagram of a research group from Brazil,
Mhm.
Núcleo de Estudos Wikis e Escandinavos, Neve, I was really, oh my God, that's amazing, this performance. I was very surprised by that. And that's
Nice.
very different,
Yeah.
this out to that. And um, for we start about these performances and doing the songs, the lyrics, and the compositions. We have the some instruments. How these instruments that you consider that being a very have importance to be doing the songs? Use only traditional instruments or use actual instruments? How this your process to using these artificials?
Yeah, for like Voluspo, I'm only using ancient instruments. Some of the instruments aren't Viking age though, because there's not so many of those. So like the fiddle thing I'm using, the Mora harpa. It's one of the oldest string instruments in Sweden, but it's really from the 1500s. And also, if you look at Norway, the oldest string instrument we have preserved in Norway is from the 1520s. There's no string instruments in Norway back to the Viking Age at all. So, and also when I do my lectures on Viking Age music, I would include these instruments. I would include the Kravik lyre that has been like an icon of Viking music, but because a lot because it's the instrument Einar tends to use, but it has nothing to do with Viking Age. It's the Kravik lyre was made in the year 1600, plus minus 30 years or something. But it's the oldest instrument we do have in Norway. There are other instruments around though, and there's a couple of bridges, for instruments from the 1200s, which is the oldest sign of string instruments in Norway. And also that goes for many of the instruments that are commonly used in Viking Age music today, like the tagelharpa, for instance, which most probably doesn't date back to the Viking Age. The oldest depiction of a tagelharpa we have is actually from the 1200s, and so on. So it's a little bit like if you're gonna keep it all authentic and all time related, it's gonna be very very poor. You won't have much textures and sound to work with. So when I do my lectures on Viking Age music or music history, I start like 40,000 years back with the first music instruments or sound tools we know about, and I keep talking about the main focus around Viking Age, but then it would be over in 15 minutes if it was only Viking Age. So I try to keep it quite related, and to use instruments that are old. It's like one of the iconic instruments I used on stage with Nebala, which is my organistrum, which is a big like hurdy-gurdy type bass, which we know at least back to the 1200s, but it's most certainly even before that. But we don't know about that. So I try to use these ancient types of textures that may have been, or at least came soon after. And to go into why I choose the ones I do and not others, it's a very big topic. It would take a long time to try to explain that. But I do have a reason why I use the exact instruments I do when I try this. But I also work with modern instruments, and I'm currently slowly working my way through to a new album, which will be more like a folk version of my skaldic songs. So it will be many of the skaldic shows that I do when I do my skaldic shows with only me and my lyres. But I will make instrumentation with double bass and simple drum set and maybe like Hardanger fiddles and other instruments too, which is interesting also to bring these sounds into a more modern expression. So that's the journey I'm currently in now.
That's very, very interesting. And first, talk to a little bit more about this process of to we talk about the creation of the songs. We talk about the development of the with the some projects that are doing this way. Do you have your own? I think your own label. If I remember, do you, some artists recording in your you have a studio?
Yeah, I do. I do have my
This,
studio.
yeah, this studio is for artists that doing these type of songs, or they are open to all artists that are want to record in the songs.
I can
How do you
do.
have?
Yeah, I probably would suggest for rock bands to get to someone else who's better at that than me, because I haven't really been working a lot with that. I've done that too, but my main focus is this weird old strange acoustic folk type instruments, which is what I like to work with too. And I've had a few projects in the studio, and I've also been layering takes for other projects in my own studio. And it's like for instance, the Nabala album was except for parts of the 3 of the songs on the album, all of it is recorded in my studio and produced in my studio. So and my albums are also of course recorded and produced in my studio. It's one of the things I did when I was young, is that I did an education as a producer and sound engineer, and I've been working with sound engineering from before I started studying. I was done with my study in 1994 or 5 or something. So yeah, I've been doing this weird acoustic sounds for a very long time, and I love doing that. And yeah, I'm open for other artists to come and do recordings. I could also come to other artists and do recordings, because I mean, we live in a world today that a sound studio doesn't need to be a huge thing with a 70 square meters mixing desk. You can just bring your computer and a little mixer and some microphones and go somewhere else and do it, which is a privilege we have today, really. Yeah.
And your actual projects, how you have some surprise for the public? How do you define that your future is works? You have some plans to doing more about
I
this
do.
type
I
of
do.
music, or
Yeah, I have
projects? How
some.
will be?
Yeah, I'm currently working on several projects, which which is a problem, because that makes everything take more time to. And this year I haven't really been able to work a lot, because I've been more or less continuously touring since February. So I had altogether, I think I had 2 weeks of spare time since February, and I've been touring continuously. Apart from that, so I haven't been able to do anything this year. So I do look forward to. I'm finishing this current tour on Wednesday next week, and I'm gonna take my winter off from touring, and get into the studio and start working with some new stuff. So yeah, there will be some new stuff. There was supposed to come a couple of things now, but I had to delay them because I've been traveling too much, which is also a privilege, though. So, but yeah, there are new things coming. There's, as I said a little bit, I'm working on a more like folk music version of my skaldic things. I'm also working with a completely different project, which I can't really say much about now because it's according to an agreement I have, I might not be allowed to talk about it at this point. But it's going to be very different from what people would expect me to do. But people who know me since like 90s, they will think that yeah, okay, you know. So, but it's going to be interesting, and I hope to show that to the people at least next summer. But yeah, I have to come back to that at a later point.
That's very interesting. Just for us finish the interview, I ever ask every musician that come to the channel if he in the end would like to sing something or present some song. Do you like to doing something to
Oh,
present?
yeah,
You have some instrument with you here?
no, I don't actually. All the instruments are locked up in the car, waiting for going out to tomorrow's show. So I don't actually have anything here, unfortunately. Yeah, if I don't have any of the instruments I use for Viking Age thing, anyways, because I don't use them for this performance, though. So yeah, I don't really know what I would be able to do, really.
No problem. It's I ever ask if the musician would like. It's no problem for me.
I would be happy to do it. If you want me back on your channel, I'll be sure to bring a lyre or an
Oh,
instrument.
that would be amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here in the channel, being part of this interview. For me, it was amazing to talk to you. We have a lot of things that we talk with each other. I learned a lot of things with you in this interview about the songs, about the compositions that you work. And for me, I have only to thank you a lot for doing the interview, the channel.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I will just stop the recording and I will talk to you.